Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome. And everyone online as well. Welcome, inshallah. This week we're going to continue with the 23rd word from the words RISALE-I NUR. We did the first 3 points. We're at the fourth point, inshallah. So I'm going to continue from the fourth point. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Belief makes human being into a human being. Belief, iman, makes human being a human being. It's a very interesting statement by Bediüzzaman Said Nursi. Then he says, it makes him into a king as well. Since this is so, man's basic duty is belief and supplication. So he says, human beings' basic duty on earth is iman, belief, and supplication, which is dua, worship. Disbelief makes him into an extremely impotent beast, turns him into a beast, küfür. Out of thousands of proofs of this matter, the differences in the ways that animals and man come into this world are a clear indication and a decisive proof of this argument. So his argument is belief makes a human being, perhaps a king, a sultan, but disbelief turns him into a beast, a dangerous wild beast. Yes, the differences show that humanity becomes humanity through iman, through belief. For when animals come into the world, they come complete in all points in accordance with their abilities as though having been perfected in another world. So it means that animals come to this world prepared, somehow prepared for this world. That is, they are sent to this world. They learn all the conditions of their lives, their relationship with the universe, with nature, and the laws of life in either 2 hours or 2 days or 2 months, depending on the species. Some of them, as soon as they come to this world, they already know certain things. They are equipped with it. Like, for example, there are some animals, as soon as they are born, in a few minutes' time, they start standing up and start walking. So depending on the species, within 3 months, from instant to 3 months, they learn how to survive in this world. Animals like, for example, sparrows and bees acquire in 20 days the power to survive and proficiency in their actions that man, human beings, only acquires in 20 years. When you look at a human being, see the difference between the animals and the human beings? It is interesting how some people try to put human beings into the category of animals. But there's a big difference there. And Bediüzzaman says, you can tell this by the way they come to this world. Animals seem to know what they need to know as soon as they come to this world. But humans, like, it takes at least a year for a human being to just stand up. And maybe a year and a half or something like that to start speaking, to start learning about things. So it takes 20 years, he says, for human beings to become actually, proficient and to acquire the necessary fundamental things for their survival and learning. So we are different as the way we come to this world. So animals like, as he said, sparrows and bees acquire in 20 days the power to survive and proficiency in their actions that man acquires in 20 years. That is, they are inspired with them. So this is the difference. In the Quran, as you know, in Surah Al-Nahl, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we have inspired the bee. We call this Sawki Ilahi. It means guidance of Allah, direct guidance, because animals need that. They need ilham, they need inspiration to survive, to know what to do. Just as, an example that I frequently cite is, when you look at those sea turtles, as soon as they come out of the egg, straight away, little tiny animals, they know which way to go. They try to interpret it with, oh, the moonlight, this, that. There is no interpretation there. And then they say instinct. Instinct. What is instinct? You need to define it. But you see in documentaries, even if there's a sand hill, sand dune in front of them, still they all point towards they sometimes pick it up and turn it the other way around. It starts swinging and starts going towards the sea. Whether there is a scientific explanation or not to it, the main logic here is the animal is equipped with what is necessary for its survival as soon as it enters this world. Unlike humans, it takes a long time for us to learn. So there's a big difference there. So they are inspired according to the Quran. So we call that ilham. This means the animal's fundamental duty is not to be perfected through learning and progress by acquiring knowledge, nor to seek help and offer supplications through displaying their impotence, but in accordance with their abilities to work and act. So they have been given a specific duty. It's very limited. And that duty does not include, contemplating about the existence, you know what I mean? Developing themselves, their knowledge, all of these things, exploration in sciences, these are not applicable to them. They have certain duties which they were created with, and their main duty is to fulfill that. And they do it. They do it perfectly. In fact, they do it so perfectly, they don't make much mistakes when you look at animals. In a humorous way, I always, give this example, analogy. If you look at the honeybee, for example, it may have been around for millions of years. It never makes a thing, rotten, honey. It's always beautiful. The honey is always beautiful, highest quality. That shows that it is not doing it with its own free will. It's not using its own free will. It is being inspired. It's being, guided to do what it's supposed to be doing. But humans are not like that. We keep on learning. We keep on learning. We keep on advancing. Okay? And make serious mistakes. We make a lot of mistakes, Yeah. But we learn from our mistakes too. That's another good thing. We try to learn. We try to learn from our mistakes. So that is part of being human. But the difference is, our learning capacity is not limited. We can keep on learning. And the more we learn, the more we realize that we don't know much. If we are truly in that thing, then we are wise, if we are thinking like that. That is the words of Socrates, famous Greek philosopher. He says, I am the wisest man on earth because I know one thing, which is I know nothing. It's very interesting. So that makes you wise. That's what he's saying. If you admit that you don't know much, then you're wise. But we keep on learning. And that's one of the purpose of our existence. So this is not the duty of animals. It is the duty of human beings. The duty of the animals are, according to Bediüzzaman, is active worship. The duty of animals are active worship. So they worship through their actions. So when they obey whatever God has assigned them to do, they are actually worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through their actions. As for man, human beings, he needs to learn everything. When he comes into this world, he is ignorant, jahil, and cannot even learn completely the conditions of life in 20 years. Indeed, even when you're a teenager, you make a lot of mistakes still. Indeed, he needs to go on learning until the end of his life. Also, he is sent to the world in a most weak and impotent form, unlike the animals. Animals straight away, within a very short time of coming to this world, they learn how to survive. But human beings, they need to be nurtured right from the beginning, fully. Animals are nurtured too by their parents, but it takes a very short period of time for them to learn. For us, years and years, by the time we start standing on our 2 feet, we cannot even hold, when we come to this world, hold our heads like this up. Milk has to be fed into our mouths. We need to be cleaned, all of these things. So also, he is sent to a world in a weak and impotent form and can only rise to his feet in 1 or 2 years. Only in 15 years can he distinguish between harm and benefit. That is why in Islam you become a mukallaf. Mukallaf means morally responsible at around the age of 15. Until then, you're not really morally responsible. And with the help of mankind's experience, attract things, advantages to him, and avoid others that are harmful. And we learn this from our communities, from other people as well. This means that man's innate duty is to be perfected through learning, education, and to proclaim his worship of Allah and servitude to him through supplication, which means there's a difference there in the creation of humans and animals. You see the distinction. Animals are here to serve a certain purpose. That's all. It's very limited. But humans are here not to serve a purpose on earth, continue controlling the, ecological balance and things like that. Animals do that perfectly. We, in fact, destroy the environment. It's a reality. So it means that we are here for some other purpose, much higher purpose, which is to know and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what he's saying here. And that is done through being a servant and through supplications, dua. That is to say, it is to know the answers of the question through whose compassion is my life so wisely and administrated this way. This is a question that all human beings need to ask and find the answers to. Through whose compassion is my life so wisely and administered in this way? And through whose generosity am I so kindly raised? Through whose graciousness am I so delicately nurtured and ministered to? It is to beseech and supplicate the provider of needs through the tongue of impotence and poverty. It is to seek from him. It is to fly to the high station of worship and servitude to Allah on the wings of impotence and poverty. So he's saying the more we realize that we are impotent, we are poor, the more help it will come to us. And we see that in nature generally. And I remember mentioning this a few times before. If you look at the animal kingdom, the more impotent, the more weak the species is, the more help it gets. The more intelligent, the more powerful, the less help it gets. That's to go out and, try to find its own sustenance. Although Allah sends everything, but things become more difficult. As you get more intelligent, more powerful. It's a reality of nature. We gave examples like the cows, for example, cattle. They're not very intelligent animals. They're weak because they don't have a defense system. They can't fight, no biting skills, no attacking skills. But their food is sent to them everywhere. It's all around them, all around them. All day they're grazing, their heads down into the grass. But as they get more intelligent and powerful, less help comes. You see it with the foxes, with the lions, with the tigers, they're more powerful, but usually they're always more skinnier, trying to find food because they got more ability. And then it's said to them, go and find that you have this ability. So with humans, he's making an resemblance here, and he's saying that the more we actually show ourselves or present ourselves as impotent before Allah and poor before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more help we will get. The more arrogant we get, the less help we will get. So this means that man came to this world to be perfected, to develop by means of knowledge and supplication. So this is our primary duty on this world. That's why we were sent here, to perfect ourselves or to improve ourselves, to enhance ourselves, to develop ourselves through two things. One is knowledge. The other one is supplication. Supplication in the sense that worship. Those two things will improve ourselves, will help us improve ourselves. So in regard to his nature, human beings, and abilities, everything is tied to knowledge. We don't get anything readily. Everything is up, we gain things through knowledge. And the foundation, source, light, and spirit of all true knowledge is the knowledge of Allah. This is the important bit here now. Furthermore, since man is subject to endless tribulations and afflicted with innumerable enemies, despite his boundless impotence, and suffers from endless needs, and has innumerable desires, despite his boundless poverty, after belief, iman, his fundamental innate duty is supplication. So after iman, the most important thing is supplication, dua and worship. Why? Because he says human beings are subject to endless tribulations. We always face some sort of problems, and we are afflicted with innumerable enemies. By enemies, it doesn't mean enemies or war, but almost everything is our enemy. And when you think about time is on our enemy. All the viruses, bacteria are our enemy. Life, in a way, slowly biting away from our existence is our enemy. Many things, illnesses, whatever you can think of, hardship. So afflicted with innumerable enemies, despite his boundless impotence. We have all these enemies against us, working against us, but we're weak. It's a reality. And we suffer from endless needs. Our needs never end. And we have innumerable desires despite our poverty. We want this, we want that, we want this, we want that. It's never ending. We are never satisfied. This is human nature. But on the other side, we are poor. We are in poverty. That's the reality. Nothing truly, in a true sense, belongs to us anyway. So after Iman, for this reason, our fundamental innate duty is worship and supplication, dua, because we are in need for him. As for supplication, it is the basis of worship of Allah. Dua is the basis of worship of Allah. In fact, the Quran says, without your supplication, without your dua, what value do you have? It's in the Quran. And servitude to him, in order to secure a desire or wish he cannot obtain, a child will either cry or ask for it. That is, he will supplicate through the tongue of impotence, either actively or verbally, and will be successful in securing it. Think about a little baby or a child. If he wants something or if she wants something, she cries because cannot obtain it herself, doesn't have the power, so starts crying, begging for it, and usually successful. Why? Because she is or he is begging for it. So we are in the same situation in respect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what he's saying. In the same way, man is like a delicate, petted child in the world of living creatures. He has to either weep at the court of the most merciful and compassionate one through his weakness and impotence, or supplicate through his poverty and need, so that things he wants may be made subject to him, or he may offer thanks for being made so. Otherwise, just like a silly child who creates a fuss over a fly, saying, with my own strength I subjugate things it is not possible to subjugate, and things 1,000 times more powerful, and make them obey me through my own ideas and measures. You know, it's like a baby saying, I make my parents subjugate to me. See how they serving me? Because I'm so powerful. I'm so intelligent. No, they're serving you because you're weak and impotent. They're serving you because they're compassionate. See? So if human beings claim to be, powerful, very intelligent, it'll be like that child saying the same thing. No, Allah is, blessing you with all these things because of your impotence, not because of your strength and power. So, and just as this is contrary to man's innate nature, so he makes himself deserving of a punishment. So if anyone who behaves in that manner, arrogant manner, thinking they are, like the creator, like the all-powerful, then they deserve punishment. Fifth point, Iman necessitates supplication as a certain means of securing the needs, and both human nature has an intense desire for it, and Almighty Allah decrees it. The Quran says, say, my sustainer would not concern himself with you, but for your supplication. That's the verse I mentioned before. So Allah would not even concern himself with you except because of your dua, which has the meaning of, what importance would you have if you did not offer me supplications? What importance would you have by the side of Allah? How insignificant are we? Sometimes we forget that. We are so significant. Like, we keep on learning things. The other day, I was looking at something, some new discovery came up, and through James Webb telescope, and I want to make a program about that anyway. And I found it very interesting. Well, we knew that our Milky Way galaxy, our Earth and Milky Way galaxy we are in a great void in space, in the universe. Void means emptiness. There are galaxy clusters, which are millions of them, like of huge clusters. But in the void that we are in, big empty, we are very isolated in space. The void that we are in is about 2 billion light years in diameter, huge. And there's only like 80 or 100 galaxies in there. So we are very lonely within the universe. But because of this discovery, they actually solved a problem. And that problem was the Hubble tension. You heard of the Hubble tension, brother Ercüment? Hubble tension is this. There's a thing called Hubble constant. Hubble constant is the velocity of the universe's expansion. It is measured as, for every megaparsec, the universe's expansion, the speed, increases by 68 kilometers per second, every megaparsec. A megaparsec is 3.26 million light years, which means when you look at distant galaxies, 3.26 million light years, 68 kilometers per second, the universe is going faster. Another megaparsec, you got to add another 6K, another 68. So as you look further, universe begins to inflate, expand much quicker, much quicker. According to calculation, the universe is expanding at a rate of about 3 times the speed of light at the moment. It's enormous thing. But the thing is, this is measured, the Hubble constant is measured according to observations, the way the galaxies are residing from us. And when we look at the cosmic background radiation, which exists since the Big Bang. So we can have a look at their, the distance, and then we can measure the speed of the expansion. But there's a new way of measuring as well, new technology, which is we look at the redshift of supernovas, in local galaxies, supernovas. And when we calculate that, it works out the constant is 72 kilometers per second. So there's 67, 68, there's 72 or 74, they say. So there's a 4 or 6 kilometer difference, which is huge. So they call this difference as Hubble tension. And it was a huge problem they've been trying to work out. But now there are new ideas. See, because we are in a huge void in a part of the universe, time flows faster for us. Where there are huge galaxy clusters, it means there's a big mass there. Time flows slower there. You know what that actually means? It's very interesting. I mentioned this yesterday to someone. They were shocked. I said, there is no such a thing as now in the universe. You know how we say now? There's no such a thing as now. Now is according to us. In another galaxy, it's a different now. In another galaxy, it's a different now. So there is no such a thing as now in time-wise. It's relevant. It's relative to other galaxies, other places, other situations. That is very interesting. And that's another indication how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not bound by space-time. So space, time, it's different conditions, time flows differently, no matter which part of the, universe you go. So I found that very interesting. So what importance would you have if you did not offer me supplication? So Allah commands, call upon me and I will answer. Make dua and I will answer. If you say, we frequently offer supplications, make dua, but they are not accepted. But the verse is general. It states that every supplication is answered. So the verse says every dua is answered. But we ask, we make duas, why isn't it answered then? To answer one thing is different. To accept something is different. So Allah answers all dua, but to accept or to answer, they're two different things. Every supplication, every dua is answered, but it's being accepted, and exactly what was sought being given is dependent on the Almighty Allah's wisdom. So whether it's accepted as the way you ask for it or in other forms, that is a different thing, and it's up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wisdom. For example, if a sick child calls the doctor saying, doctor, doctor, and the doctor replies, here I am, what do you want from me? And the child says, give me such and such medicine. The doctor will either give him exactly what he asks for, or something better, or even more beneficial for him. Or knowing that the medicine the child is asking for is harmful to his illness, the doctor will give him nothing. Isn't that right? So when we ask for something from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make dua, the thing that we are asking for, if it's beneficial to us, with his wisdom, he will give it to us. or he may give something much better than that, that we don't realize. Or sometimes what we ask for is not going to benefit us. In the long run, it's going to cause us more harm. So what he does, he doesn't give that. Thus, since Almighty Allah is all-present and all-seeing, He responds to the supplications of His servants. Through His presence and response, He transforms the desolation of loneliness and solitude into familiarity. It means that we realize that we are not alone then. We don't feel lonely. Sometimes human beings could be in a crowd of 10,000 people and they will feel lonely. There are many people who feel lonely, but we are among 8 billion human beings on earth. But you feel alone, you feel lonely. But when you have a connection with the Almighty, the one who created you, and you can open your heart to Him one-on-one in Islam, then that loneliness goes away. It's cancelled. But he does this not in accordance with man's capricious and importunate demands, but in accordance with the requirements of his dominical wisdom. He gives either what you ask for, what is sought, or what is better than that, or he might not give nothing at all. Depends if it's good for you or not. Also, supplication, making dua, is a form of worship and recognition of man's servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is, you are showing that you are His servant by making dua. The fruits of this pertain to the hereafter. That's the mistake that people make a lot. I ask, but why is He not given to me? Why doesn't He fix this? Why doesn't He do this? A lot of, especially disbelievers, put this forward a lot. Why doesn't they are asking dua from their God? Why doesn't He help them? They don't realize. The reality is the fruits of dua pertain to the hereafter. The main results and rewards you will get in the hereafter, not here. So even if something is not given to you, you should think of it as it will be given to me in 10-folds, 1,000-folds on the day of judgment. Your dua is never in vain. It doesn't disappear. It's always answered. That's what it means, really. There is I think it was a hadith here, a hadith where, a man is resurrected on the day of judgment. And then he knows that because there our brains will work differently. We will be able to calculate everything. And he knows that, his sins are more than his, good deeds. And that's a bad sign because he's going to end up in punishment first. And he's, in despair, his head is down like this. But suddenly he realizes when the big great scales are being, weighed, his good deeds and evil deeds, he realizes that angels are putting something onto the right scale, which starts to make it heavier. And then he's in shock. And he says, I haven't done these deeds. What are they? Why is the right side becoming heavier? And they say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, these are all the du'as you made, which were not given to you when you were on earth. There you go, my servant. I'm giving them to you now. So this is the importance of dua. We should keep on making dua, keep on making dua. They are never wasted. Because the Quran says they are all answered. Call upon me and I will answer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. So the fruits of dua pertain to the hereafter. The aims pertaining to this world are the times of a particular sort of supplication and worship, they are limited things, really. So what if you have the entire world? I knew this man years and years ago. He was a very wealthy man, but very strong believer. And with him, they traveled in Turkey. This is years ago. They were traveling to the eastern part of the Turkey by bus. They were going, and they were stopping in different places for the intention of talking to people about Islam. So this man was a very wealthy man, and the other one next to him was a high-level scholar, very high-level scholar. And as they were going, what the wealthy man asked the scholar and said, Hocam, if we were to pray for this world, make dua for this world, supplication, what's the best way of doing it, to do it? And the scholar turned to him and smiled. He said, it's not worth it. He said, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to ask for anything in this world. That's what he means. Pray for the other side. One way or another, we get by in this world. Our rizq is sent. We're making attempts. We're obeying the causality as well. And Allah provides, alhamdulillah. But our main concern should be the other side when you think about it. So we should make dua in abundance. We should keep on making dua because they're never going to get wasted. If they are not given here, we will certainly get them on the other side, inshallah. Getting there nearly. So drought is the time for such worship. Worship and supplication of this sort are not in order to bring rain. How they make salat and dua during rain, and when there's no rain, when there's drought. Some people think that they go to make this dua so that it rains. That is not the purpose. What he's saying is that signifies the time of that worship. That signifies the time of that worship. So it is not really in order to bring that rain. If Allah wills, He will still send you rain. That's a different thing. So this type of performance, if they are performed with that intention alone, they are not worthy of acceptance. So if there is an expectation of something urgent, and you're doing it only with that intention, it is not regarded as a supplication. It's not regarded as worship. They are not worthy of anything. Another thing is like an eclipses of the sun and moon are the times of two particular prayers known as Salat al-Khusuf, Salat al-Khusuf. When there's eclipse, there's a certain prayer. Some people think you pray that so that, the moon is released or something. There's no such. That signifies the time of that prayer. Just as, when the sun sets, it signifies the time of Maghrib and the rest of the prayers. There's all certain time. And this signifies the time of that prayer. That is to say, with the veiling of the two luminous signs of the night and day, Allah's tremendousness is proclaimed, His majesty is proclaimed. So Almighty Allah calls His servants to a sort of worship at those times. The prayers are not so that the sun and the moon will be revealed, whose appearance and how long the eclipses will continue have been reckoned by astronomers anyway. In just the same way, drought is the time for the prayers for rain and the visitation of the calamities and inflictions of harmful things, the times of certain supplications when man realizes his impotence, weakness, and through his supplication enters entreaty, seeks refuge at the court of the one who's possessing absolute power. Even if the calamities are not lifted, So we see the conditions in, like, for example, in Palestine now. Some people make fun of it, evil disbelievers. They say, "Oh, where is your God now? Aren't those people supplicating to God?" They don't realize supplications are not done to change things. Supplication are type of worship. They are worship. You're getting the rewards for it. When Allah's wisdom prevails, the change will occur too. That is a different thing. So we don't try to control the results. We do what duty befalls upon us. It is not our duty to create the effect, the result. We don't realize this sometimes. So supplications are done, you know, for the purpose of worship, but the visitations of all these calamities, problems, hardship, infliction of harmful things, the times of certain supplications, when man realizes their weakness, their impotence through his supplications, and entreaty seeks refuge at the core of one possessing all power. It means that even if those calamities are not lifted, despite many du'as, it may not be said that they were not accepted. See the difference? It doesn't mean my dua is not accepted because the calamity is not lifted. It means Allah is going to give you something different, maybe something much, much more valuable than that. So it should rather be said the time for the supplication dua is not yet over. That's another thing. If the calamity is not passing, going away, then the time of the supplication has not ended. You got to keep on making the dua. It's a sign of that as well. I'm about to finish. So, if through His graciousness and munificence, Almighty Allah removes the calamity, light upon light, it means nur, nurun upon nur, nurun ala nur, then the time for the supplication is over and done with. If a person has illness, makes dua, illness doesn't go away, it means you got to keep on making that dua. That's what he's saying. And if the illness is lifted, then nurun ala nur, but the supplication for that specific thing has been completed. Then you make dua for something else. That is to say, supplication has the meaning of worship and man's acknowledging his servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As for worship and servitude to Allah, it should be purely and sincerely for Allah's sake, for nothing else. There should be no other objectives, expectations. So worship and serving Allah should only be done purely and sincerely with ikhlas for Allah's sake. Man should only proclaim his weakness, impotence, and seek refuge with him through dua, supplication. He should not interfere in his dominicality. Why doesn't he do this? That's not for you to think, dwell in. You should not interfere in that. He should leave the taking of the measures to him and rely on his wisdom, and he should not accuse his mercy. So a human being should never accuse his mercy or blame Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, I'll stop there. Jazakullah khair.